Welcome to Beneath the Bible, where we're helping you dig deeper and uncover the world beneath the sacred book. Today we're continuing our series about people groups of the Bible with a look at the Ammonites. Along with the Moabites, the Ammonites were Israel's neighbors to the east during the Iron Age. In the Bible, their origin is linked with that of the Moabites as well. We have a fair amount of archaeological material from the Ammonites, whose existence continued until at least the 2nd century AD. We'll explore that history and more in today's look at the Ammonites. The Ammonites appear as a traditional antagonist of the people of Israel. Like the Moabites, the Ammonites first appear in the Bible as the sons of Ammon, and their origin story is given in Genesis 19. Their ancestor, Ammon, is the product of an incestuous relationship between Lot and his two daughters, the other offspring being Moab. So you, the reader, should immediately know what kind of people the Ammonites are. They have shameful origins, so they do shameful things now, like worshiping non-Yahwistic gods and harassing God's people. The land of Ammon is first mentioned in the stories of Moses leading the Hebrews to the Promised Land. They avoid the land of Ammon, as well as the land of Moab to its south, only attacking the kingdom of Sihon. Even without any conquest narrative, the land all around Ammon is allotted to the Transjordanian tribes like Gad and Reuben. The Ammonites show up briefly in Joshua and Judges and later appear as occasional oppressors of the Israelites, fighting the Israelites in Gilead or maybe crossing the Jordan for occasional raids. Sometimes we just hear that they are allies of the oppressors of Israel. The Ammonites really came to prominence in the period of the Israelite monarchy and later. Saul fought the Ammonite king Nahash, who was laying siege to the Transjordanian Israelite city of Jabesh in Gilead. David fought Hanun, the son of Nahash. Hanun insulted David's emissaries, which precipitated a major regional conflict. It's during the Israelite siege of Rabbah, the capital of the Ammonites, that David's sin with Bathsheba occurs. The Israelites were ultimately successful and took the city, subjugating the kingdom of Ammon. It's interesting that during Absalom's rebellion, an Ammonite named Shobi provided support for David, not military support, but material support. Shobi says he is the son of Nahash, so he's possibly the brother of Hanun, who had insulted David. Solomon is said to have married an Ammonite woman and to have followed after the Ammonite deity Milcom. It may be this Ammonite woman, named Naamah, who was the mother of his son Rehoboam. In the period of the divided monarchy, the Ammonites appear in historical texts a number of times, usually as antagonists of the southern kingdom of Judah. In the prophetic texts, the Ammonites feature prominently in the triptych of the traditional enemies of Israel and Judah, along with Moab and Edom. Ammonites seem to have weathered the Babylonian conquest better than the Judahites, as they're still present in the accounts of Nehemiah, where the Ammonites oppose the work of rebuilding Jerusalem. They even appear in the book of Maccabees as adversaries of the Jews.
The Ammonites, or the sons of Ammon, appear as a Transjordanian polity during the Iron Age. Ammon is really just a single city-state, unlike the region and polity of Moab or a cluster of urban centers like Philistia. The Ammonites are the people of the city of Rabbath Ammon, or Rabbah Bene Ammon in the Bible, and the area around it, or what is called Bet Ammon. It's noteworthy that this area saw a cycle of urbanism and sedentarism throughout its ancient history. For example, in the Middle Bronze Age, there's a period of urban prosperity and important cities in the area. But these were abandoned and the population seemingly became more nomadic during the Late Bronze Age. The area saw a process of sedentarization in the Iron Age when a new population settled and built in the area, and this group came to be called the Ammonites. The polity built by the Ammonites is just one major urban center and a few affiliated smaller settlements subject to it. Unfortunately, the Iron Age remains of Rabbah Ammon from the period when the Ammonite kingdom was at its peak are not as plentiful or as well preserved as we'd hope. This is partially because it's still an active, flourishing metropolis, modern Jebel Kala or Citadel Hill in the city of Amman, Jordan. The territory of the Ammonites was focused around this capital city. Their eastern border ended in the desert, meaning that throughout the Ammonites' history they remained in an ecologically marginal space. The Ammonites were certainly capable of farming, and the land around Amman has a Mediterranean climate that is semi-arid and warm, but conservation of water was, and is, an important facet of life in this area. To the east, the annual rainfall quickly drops below 200 millimeters, which is the limit needed for dry farming. There were a series of watchtowers used across multiple periods that overlooked the arable land of Ammon, indicating how precious this land really was. The real prosperity of the city came from being on a trade route, the north-south King's Highway through the Jordan Rift Valley on the east side of the Dead Sea. The route connected with other trade routes to their south, which connected with Egypt and Arabia, and from Rabbah one could also continue north to Damascus and then into Mesopotamia. The northern border of the Ammonites did not go that far north, but ended at the Jabbok River. To the west, the territory went up to a mountain ridge and the headwaters of several wadis which flowed into the Jordan. Beyond the western border was Gilead, which the Bible says was the territorial land of Reuben and Gad. The southern border of the Ammonites ran up to Moabite territory, which was negotiated and shifted over time, but the border was generally near sites like Nahor, Tel El Umeri, and Tel Jawa. As for the history of the Ammonites and the Iron Age Ammonite Kingdom, we don't really have a lot of non-biblical written sources, and the sources we do have only contain a handful of references to Ammonite kings. We do have a fair amount of archaeological work that, especially when paired with the written sources, can help us sketch out a history of the Ammonite Kingdom and some of its distinct cultural characteristics. The Ammonites don't appear in any Bronze Age texts, and if they existed in the late Bronze Age, the Egyptians don't seem to know of them. Their territory seems to have been so marginal that the pharaohs weren't concerned with it. It appears that the Iron Age is when the Ammonites first emerged, coinciding with the emergence of the first sedentarized polities in Transjordan. The Ammonites appear to coalesce around some kind of chieftain or king-like figure later in the Iron One, before the Israelites do something similar. The archaeology of Iron 1A and B shows an increasing amount of settlements in a kind of settlement hierarchy, with Rabat Amman at the center, medium-sized settlements like Umeri, Sahab, and Jawa supporting it, and then small hamlets and farming villages below those in the hierarchy, particularly to the south of Rabat Amman. Randy Junker, who has excavated extensively in this region, has discussed the development of Ammon as a process of generative genealogy, wherein large, non-sedentary kinship groups coalesced into large tribal confederations, tribal kingdoms, and eventually states, albeit small-scale secondary ones. Once Amman was clearly a kingdom, certainly by the 9th century, the history of this kingdom becomes somewhat clearer. From the 9th through the 6th centuries, we have the names of several Ammonite kings. The names Hanun and Sobi or Shobi are known from Ammonite seals and later Nabatean and Palmyran inscriptions, as well as from the Bible. Neo-Syrian annals of Tiglath-Pileser III reference the name Sanibu or Sanipu, who may be the same figure referenced on this statue, which has an inscription stating the statue of Yarich Ezer, son of Zakur, son of Sanipu. This statue is interesting as it's one of many statues of Ammonite kings, or in this case, elite or royal figures. This figure does not have a crown and appears to be holding a wilted lotus blossom. This is often associated with the funerary imagery, so it may indicate that this figure may have died prematurely. Though the person depicted here apparently had a royal pedigree, he was never a king, as the inscription lacks any royal title. Most Ammonite kings are depicted with the Egyptian Atef crown. The depictions of kings' heads in this way seems to be a uniquely Ammonite phenomenon among the Transjordanian peoples. The Moabites don't do this, nor do the Edomites, or the Arameans, or the Judahites. There are parallels with contemporary depictions from Phoenicia and especially Cyprus. Those parallels are pretty far afield from 8th century Ammon, so make of that what you will. For whatever reason, the Atef crown seems to be closely associated with the Ammonite kingdom. This may be behind the reference to David taking the crown of the Ammonite king and it weighing a talent. The wealth of Ammon is attested in the archaeological finds from Ammon, for example, the temple of Milcom on the Amman citadel. Milcom is likely the national deity of Ammon, although he may be only the patron deity of the royal household. The Bible indicates that Milcom was the deity of the Ammonites, but other evidence suggests he had a lesser role. Onomastic evidence, that is, the study of names from Ammon, show that not many Ammonite names have Milcom as a theophoric element in the name. Instead, Il or El appears to be the most frequent theophoric element. This has led to a bit of a conundrum for scholars. Some see Il, or equivalent to the Canaanite father and creator god El, depicted here wearing the Atef crown, as the main deity of the Ammonites. Milcom would then just be a title or epithet of El. The word Milcom is related to the word for king, so this may make some sense. And other scholars think Milcom was a distinct deity from El, and Milcom was the patron deity of the royal household, and El was the deity commonly worshipped. This remains an open issue within the study of Ammonite culture. Other kings referenced in Neo-Assyrian sources include Pado-Il, who is referenced in sources from Sennacherib and Esarhaddon. He was referenced in sources dated to 701 and 673, so he's apparently fairly long-lived as a ruler. He did not rebel when Judah did, which may be why he survived as long as he did. and succeeding Pado'il was Amminadab the first, known from the Tel Tzimran bottle, a seal of his minister, and inscriptions of Ashurbanipal. He had to pay Ashurbanipal a heavy tribute, or 2 minas of gold, or roughly 1 kilogram, some which attest to the wealth available in Ammon. And this Ammonite wealth is even attested in Song of Songs. Amminadab was succeeded by Hisil-il and Amminadab II. Another king, Barak-il, seems to have reigned around the end of the 7th century, so we have a fair number of kings that are attested. The fate of the kingdom of Ammon is somewhat debated. It survived into the 2nd century BC when, according to the Book of Maccabees, it was defeated by Judas Maccabeus. The area they occupied became part of the Nabatean kingdom shortly after this, but this was not the last we hear about the Ammonites, as they're mentioned as a numerous people by the Christian apologist Justin Martyr in the 2nd century AD. After that, the Ammonites fade into history. What we do know is that the city of Rabba Ammon persisted, and presumably its people did too, even if their autonomy did not. Today, the city of Amman continues to hold sway in its region long after its ancient founders were departed.
Thanks for joining us for this Beneath the Bible video. If you like what you saw, we think that you'll also like our other videos on people groups of the Bible. So be sure to check out the videos that are popping up on the screen right now. You can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Beneath the Bible. And remember, you can support our work at ko-fi.com/beneaththebible. Thanks for watching, and until next time, keep digging.